Welcome to a Viz Artist video tutorial. My name is Joshua McVeigh, and in this video we'll be going over a Viz Artist quick setup. This video is intended to get you started using Viz Artist on a single workstation. This is not a replacement of the user guides. The intended audience is somebody that is evaluating Viz Artist for the first time. After watching this video, it is highly encouraged for you to read the user guides for both Viz Artist and Viz Graphic Hub. Before we install the software, a couple of notes about the architecture. Viz Artist depends on a Graphic Hub, which is the central repository of graphical assets. The Viz Graphic Hub software can be running on a local workstation or somewhere on a server. For the purposes of this video, we will set up the Viz Graphic Hub and Viz Artist software on the same workstation. Another required component is the Viz dongle, which looks like this. If this dongle is not plugged into a USB port on your PC, Viz Artist will not launch and you will get an error. The Viz dongle also has a real-time clock and will deactivate itself if the computer's clock is adjusted backwards in time. Viz Artist also periodically checks to make sure that the Viz dongle is still plugged in. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. On my desktop here, I have two installers, one for Viz Graphic Hub and one for Viz Artist. You can see that I have specific versions of the software. Now don't worry, if you have a different version of the software, the installation process will be very similar. What we want to do first is install Viz Graphic Hub. So we'll start off by double clicking on the installer, and here we can see our startup screen, and this screen indicates that it will go ahead and go through the process of installing Viz Graphic Hub. So we'll click the next button. Here we'll see our end user license agreement. Read the license agreement. Then click the checkbox indicating you accept the terms, and click Next. Now we get to choose what type of installation we want, or what mode we want Viz Graphic Hub to run in. We should select Viz GH 5/4 free, or we call this simply 5 for free mode. This allows you to have 5 concurrent Viz Graphic Hub connections. More information on exactly what you're choosing here is available in the Viz Graphic Hub User's Guide. Later, we can also select a different mode if you choose. Let's click Next. On this next screen, we get an opportunity to choose our setup type. For the purposes of this video, let's choose Custom. Here we can select which features that we want to include in our installation. Now, because we're installing locally on the same PC where we're also going to install Viz Artist, let's make sure that the Viz Graphic Hub startup service has been disabled. And let's check the location where our data directory will be created. Here, my data directory is set to, on my C drive, Viz GH data. If you have another location you'd like to place your data directory, you can click Browse and select it now. The data directory is where all Graphic Hub assets will be stored. You don't need gigabytes of space, but 1 megabyte is not enough. All assets stored in the Viz Graphic Hub are either single frame raster images or composed of vector data. So this directory will grow, but it will not grow quickly. You are recommended to select a local drive for the data directory. We don't recommend using a removable USB drive, a Firewall, or eSATA drives. Let's go ahead and proceed by clicking Next. And here, now we're ready to install. We'll click Install. And Viz Graphic Hub will proceed with the installation. Now that Viz Graphic Hub has completed its installation, we can click Finish. And now we can see that the Viz Graphic Hub terminal is automatically starting on our PC. Notice that in the center of my screen I have a Windows security alert. This is the Windows Firewall detecting some features of this software. Keep in mind that the Viz software that we're installing uses your network, and the firewall needs to be updated as to how you want it to handle that software. We want the Windows Firewall to allow Viz Graphic Hub and Viz Artist to use your network in order to communicate with each other and other software. So we want to make sure to choose private networks, as is already checked, and to also check public networks. Once we've done so, we can click Allow Access, and that screen will go away. Here we can also see that we have a restart indicator telling us that we should probably restart our machine to make sure that all our changes that we've made for this installation take effect. For my purposes, I'm going to click No, but I do recommend you restart your PC. And for now, I'll go ahead and take the Viz Graphic Hub terminal and minimize it. The next step is to install Viz Artist. Here I have the Viz Artist installer. We'll double click on it and it will prepare to install. The installation procedure is similar to Viz Graphic Hub, and we'll be choosing some of the same options. Here, let's click Next. And again, we have a end user license agreement. Please read the agreement. Click the checkbox to indicate that you agree, and click Next. Here we get to choose a platform type. Now, if you're using Viz hardware that's been shipped to you with a video card, you'll want to choose video. Most of the time, if you're using your own hardware or you're installing on a laptop, I recommend using VGA. VGA is the version that we most often install when you're using Viz Artist. Here we can see our custom setup that allows us to choose what features that we want installed with Viz Artist. Here we can see the program itself. We can also see the hard lock driver. This is a driver for the Viz RT dongle, which we talked about earlier. You need to make sure that this driver is installed on your PC so the dongle is recognized. We have a few other items that are installed, and we can leave each one of these enabled. Let's now click Next, and we're ready to install, and we'll choose Install. If you are requested to shut down any software during this installation, go ahead and do so, and then you can restart it a little bit later. Here you can see that because I already have my dongle driver plugged into my PC, the hard lock driver is being installed and it is now recognizing that dongle. We can also see that the Viz Artist setup is complete. So we've completed the installation of Viz Graphic Hub and Viz Artist. Here we have shortcut icons for the software we've installed, Viz Graphic Hub terminal, and when we install Viz Artist, we get Viz Config, Viz Artist, and Viz Engine. These allow us to modify or work with different aspects of Viz Artist. So we'll get into those in a moment. For now, we need to make sure that our Viz Graphic Hub is up and running before we start Viz Artist. Previously, after installing Viz Graphic Hub, the Graphic Hub terminal opened automatically. We can get that back if we go down into our icons here, and we can see this gray icon indicating that our Graphic Hub is started, the software is started, but the Graphic Hub is not currently running. We can change that by double clicking, and it'll open up our Graphic Hub terminal once again. We can check and see that we have the correct data directory, and click OK. We can also see that we have the correct mode, and we can click Start. Once we click Start, we can see the icon change to orange, and inside of our icons down here, we can also see that the icon turned orange as well. At any time, you can go ahead and close the Graphic Hub terminal. That will not stop or shut down the Viz Graphic Hub. It will still be running as indicated by the icon. You can also right-click on the icon to choose to shut down your graphic hub. If you click the shutdown, you'll be prompted to confirm that you want to shut down your server. You'll click yes. The graphic hub will proceed through its shutdown process, and as soon as it's completed, we'll get an indicator saying that the graphic hub terminal has been shut down. You'll want to make sure to shut down your Viz graphic hub before you put your PC to sleep or before you shut the PC itself down. Of course, we need to make sure it's started when we're working with Viz Artist. So let's go ahead and right-click on the icon again and choose Start Server. Once again, we'll wait a moment while Viz Graphic Hub proceeds through its startup. And in just a moment, we'll get a status icon and a balloon indicating that Viz Graphic Hub is up and running. There it is. Now that it's started successfully, we're ready to start Viz Artist. So we're ready to go ahead and start up Viz Artist. Now before we do, I want to go over a few things again that you might see when you start Viz Artist. There's actually 3 pretty common things that will get in your way of getting into Viz Artist right off the bat. First, as a reminder, if you start up Viz Artist and you see an error failed to connect to dongle or hardlock dongle invalid environment error, each one of those indicates that you don't have your hardlock dongle plugged into your PC. You need to make sure that you plug that in and that the hardlock dongle driver recognizes the dongle. Also, once you've started up Viz Artist, you may see a screen indicating that you don't have a valid license. If you don't have a valid license, you can get one from your local Viz Artist support, or we need to make sure to apply your license string. The third thing I'll go over with you in just a moment. Let's go ahead and start up Viz Artist. Once I start it up, we can see that it is going through the process of initializing plugins. And I have a couple screens that show up. The first one indicates that I need to allow Viz Artist through my firewall. We'll go ahead and allow it for both of these. And then also the Viz engine needs to have access allowed as well. I also have an indicator telling me that there is no servers found on localhost. You'll get this error if your graphic hub is not up and running. So let's make sure that our graphic hub is up and running, and then let's start Viz Artist once again. So I've once again confirmed that my Viz graphic hub is running, and I'll go ahead and start up Viz Artist. Here I have the same initialization, no longer any warnings, and I'm introduced to the Viz Artist login to Viz Graphic Hub screen. This allows me to log in to the graphic hub that I started moments ago on this same PC. Here I can choose a host name. Localhost is the default, which means it's trying to connect to the local PC, which is the one that Viz Artist is running on. And the hub I have is VizDB, which is the default hub name. And the user I have is guest. And if you're using guest as your user, there is no password. I can also choose to have Viz Artist automatically log in to the graphic hub, and that means I'll never see this login screen again. Whatever you choose, we'll then click login, and we'll be ready to get started with Viz Artist. Here's the splash screen. We have some indication of what your license allows. And finally, we're in Viz Artist itself. At this point, you're ready to start learning about the Viz Artist user interface, the main menu, the main window, and everything that goes along with it. However, if this is your first time using Viz Artist, we're going to go over a few configuration setup tips that'll help you get going even faster. Once you're in, we'll go ahead and go up to the config area. Config will open up some of your options. And inside of config, we can go ahead and change a few things to make sure it's showing up in a way that you might expect. So first, let's choose the correct output format. Click on the output format in your sections, and now we can select the format that we desire. Usually, you'll want to choose a 16:9 output format. If you're just designing graphics or getting a feel for how Viz Artist works, you can choose to run Viz Artist as in 720p or 1080i. I'll choose 720p. That will allow Viz to create graphics at 1280 by 720, and I'll choose to render at 5994. Your setup might be different depending on your facility or what your goals are. Next, let's take a look at the video input section, or what might be called the video preview section, depending on what version of Viz Artist you're using. Inside of this section, I can see I have quite a few items that I can turn on or off. I have live video inputs, and I can have up to 8 of those, or some clip channels. Now, turning these on is going to be dependent on your hardware. So if you have a video card allowing you to bring in video, you can choose which type of video it is, whether it's HD 720p, or you can choose whether it's active or not. For the most part, I recommend turning on 2 of your clip channels, and I'll set 2 of mine to 720p. This will apply even if you're not using a video card and you're just running Viz Artist in VGA mode. We can also go down to this bottom area. We want to choose to save our configuration, and notice that Viz Artist lets you know that changes will only take effect after restarting Viz. We'll click OK, and we'll go ahead and go through a restart. I'll click the close button, and I'll choose to restart the current setup. Okay, so now we're back in Viz Artist, and here we have our render output setup, and we can see it's 16:9 now instead of the SD size that we saw when we first started up Viz Artist. The first thing you might want to do is import in some files that were given to you along with the software installers. If I minimize Viz Artist, we can see I now have a file called training.via, and this training.via is the file that I want to import into Viz Artist. Back in Viz Artist, I'll go to my import button in my main menu, and from here I can select where I want to search to import in a particular element. On the left side of my screen, I can see my graphic hub that I'm connected to, and on the right side I can navigate through my folders, go to my desktop, and here in my desktop I can see the only archive I have, which is called training.via. If you had different types of elements you wanted to import, you could click the drop down for the import, and you'll see you can bring in fonts, images, objects, and the like. The full list of what you can import is in your Viz Artist User's Guide. For now, I'll just select this archive. We can see Viz Artist scan the archive to see the contents. Down below, I can see all the contents show up, and I can even take a look at these individually if I want to see what's inside of here. Then I can click the Import Archive button, and Viz Artist will go through the process of importing in the archive I chose. Once it's completed, we'll see that we now have some folders that have been added to our graphic hub, and if we click back on Server, we're ready to start working with those. And that's about it for our video. Thank you for joining me for a VizRT video tutorial covering the Viz Artist Quick Setup Guide.